welcome to Watercolor Studio 42, and I'm going to do a little bit of talking before I get started today. Sometimes I get talking too much, but that's all. I'll try not to. But somebody said to me, well, just talk a little bit about how they can go about doing these things maybe a little bit easier. And so what I do a lot of times, I have this sketch pad. I have this sketch pad here, and I start off and do some exercises, and you can use just a regular pencil if you want. Some people use a carpenter's type of pencil, like a chisel type of pencil, but I usually just hold it like almost like a conductor, you know, conducting the orchestra or whatever, and the band and stuff like that. And so I do some exercises. Now I'm going to try to keep my head out of the way so that the overhead camera could pick up what I'm doing. When I start out at first doing the sketch, I always start lighter, okay, and then I can always go darker. So I'll do these are just exercises. Now, if you can print, you can probably draw, and I'll show you some things that you can do with some letter shapes and make them into a picture. First of all, I'm going to start with the circle. And you could say it's a number O. And get used to working in different sizes, okay? Large, medium, small, and so forth. And that's a good exercise. Then sometimes you can, if you want to, I start light, and then some people do this. They go over, they outline the shape with a darker, either with a marker or whatever it might be, and so forth. Now, so that could be a number O, or in the alphabet, the letter O. And then a lot of times when you're doing, let's say, maybe an ice cream cone, okay? So you use a triangle, okay? Get used to working a triangle like that. Now, if I wanted to put the two together, how about this? How about this? How about making a triangle, and let's put a circle on top and make ourselves an ice cream cone, if you will. Now, that could be a start of a person, too. If I start with the head, then I could put the shoulders in, and then maybe use the triangle. Then you got the arms coming out from there. So there's different ways of using these basic shapes. Now, another shape that's very popular, along with the circle, triangle, is a square. I'm going to just flip the page here a little bit. And you could use a square shape, and I usually do the sides first and put the top in. And now the square can also be a rectangle, just elongated square, and the rectangle can be, again, like this, and half of that, well, almost half, I should make it a little clearer. There. That could be a window or something, you know, in the house. If you want to add some more sashes in there, you can, and make it into a window. So the square can be used for a lot of things. Now you take a triangle, go like this, and what I usually do is put a square underneath the triangle. You can either make an arrow pointing somewhere, or it could be the beginning of a house by putting, you know, the windows and doors. So the other detail into it to make it into a house. Now, as far as making, let's say, a tree, if you know how to make the letter Y, the Y like this, right? Here's the Y. Now, bring that down here. There's your letter Y, okay? Now, this becomes a tree. Now, what I'm going to do is always make the base of the tree, of course, it's going to be always starting thicker, and it goes up and it gets thin. So let's make this part of the tree wider down here, the bottom part of the Y. The limbs are the same way. They're wider and they go out thick to thin, right? Now you get the branches. Let's use some smaller Ys. Let's put a Y here and connect it, okay? Maybe another Y going that way, connect it. And let's do something over here. Okay, another branch, a Y shape. A Y shape off of that. Something down here. So you can make a pretty good tree. Let's see. Oh, another type of tree. Let's say you want to make a Christmas tree, okay? So you put the trunk in, have it go from again thick to thin. Then the branches on a let's say a fir tree, they might be a little bit wider at the base actually, and as they go up, they get smaller, and as you get near the top, they actually reach out. They're little sharp branches. But what happens is that on a tree, as those branches around the base get larger, they spread out. Also, they get heavier. So sometimes in the wintertime, the snow holds them down. So you get a tree that might be something like this. It goes up, it gets thin up into here, and see how it's basically a triangle. And we'll make that a little thinner at the top. If I had a smaller, thinner marker, I could do it a little bit better. But basically, this is what a tree is like. You know, like a Christmas tree. Put some lights on it, you know, whatever you want to do, decorate it. Now, also, what really makes anything, any shape that's vertical or horizontal, if you put a cast shadow on the ground of that object, it really makes it look very convincing once you get the shadow in there. The tree, you can do the same thing with that. Give that a little cast shadow, and that kind of makes it jump out and look more convincing. So you see, you're using letter shapes or number shapes, if you will, if you want to. Now, I got a picture here that's of Easter lilies. We'll call them Easter lilies, all right? Now, the Easter lily is a plant that has like 4 blossoms that go out. They sort of go north, south, east, and west. So when you look at the picture sometimes, we'll start with a pencil. I'll be on the safe side. Okay, you start out and you can make this, one going this way, one going that way. And I'm looking at the picture now. Another one goes up here, another one goes out there. So you have 4. 1, 2, 3. Now, let's go back and use our basic shapes again. I won't use that one just yet, but I'm going to show you the tulip, or I should say not the tulip, it's a lily, has sort of like a trumpet shape. It looks like a trumpet shape. So what I'm going to do, here's the triangle, right, like that. And then around the opening of the triangle, let's put sort of like a circle, but it's an oval. So that's the shape you get, a combination of an oval with a triangle, okay? And then, of course, it bends sharply, it comes down almost. So That's how that works. You got a triangle, and you put an oval there. Now, then when you want to look at it a little bit more in detail, that oval has some petals that come out. One bends this way, another one goes that way, and it's sort of wavy through here. Then you see the back side, and then it comes back into here and goes into the stem. And then you've got to do some shading and shadowing and so forth, and you get your shape of the plant. Now, when you're doing flowers, a lot of times, I make a donut. I put the hole in the donut, circle, a larger circle on the outside. It could be a tire on a car, and then you're going to put the petals on, right? So rather than have the petals sort of all lean sort of one way, right or left, I start with the first petal going north, south, east, and west. Okay. Yeah. Now, again, we can make the leaf like an oval. Okay, I should say the petal. Okay, there's a petal there, a petal there. Okay, all right. Now there's 4 petals. Now, if it's a daisy, you can fill it in more in between, making all these extra little ovals. Okay, so that I'm going to go over this a little darker. That makes your flower. So, like I was telling you before, start with a donut shape, and then that could be a little bit bumpy. Then you're going to have that outer circle, and that's going to be your petals. I'm just doing this quick. Normally I'd slow down a bit and do a little bit more cautiously, but see how you get that the petals in. Then you put the stem in somewhere down there underneath, and then some of the shapes of the leaves. Leaves can be funny too. Leaves can be like an oval shape, or they can be a little bit more pointed on one end, and then they have that little vein that spine that goes through there. And you can make those kind of wavy, you know, a bent leaf, so forth. And so, which is the letter S. S you start with, and then you put another side on it, and you can make that very easily into a leaf shape, okay? So I'm giving you a little bit of a lesson with the drawing part. And before we get started. So now, getting back, I wanted to show the children one more thing too, before we get going here. I'm going to show, this is for the children. Now, this is my idea of how I can make a bunny rabbit, okay? I'm going to start right in, and I normally, I can use a pencil, I guess. I'll start in. Now, the body can be a large egg shape, okay? So you turn the egg on its side. Here's the body of the bunny rabbit. And then the paw, front paws could be another little oval shape. And then the back leg's a little bit tricky. It's sort of like a circle, but it has an oval to it. So it comes around a little bit like that. The tail can be sort of a bumpy circle, right? Then the head in front can be a circle attached to the body. And then the ears, we get back to that oval shape. You can put the ears on like that, 2 of those, and just shape them a little bit more like they would be, you know, and attach them to the head. The eye is a small circle. Nose can be a little circle. And you got yourself a bunny rabbit. Then what I do is go around the outline a little bit. And, probably want to use a marker that shows up better. Here's the bunny rabbit, okay? Something like that. Okay, and then attach the head into the body. Little fluffy tail, his leg. Just show that part of it, you know, part of a circle and an oval. Front paw, belly. Okay, eye, small circle. Nose can be a little circle, and the head is sort of attached into the body. So there's your bunny rabbit. And then some ovals around here could be some eggs for the bunny rabbit, right? He's distributing probably some of the eggs here and there. That's a little bit on the light side. That marker is a little bit on the light side. You could do it with go around it a little bit more with a heavier marker, you know, just so it shows up a little bit more. But actually the bunny rabbit is made up of mostly ovals and circles. It's ovals and circles. Something like that. And then of course you got your eggs, they're oval, whatever. And maybe in the grass. Put some grass in the picture. Whatnot. Okay, so there's your bunny rabbit and your Easter eggs. Now, so much for the talking about different things. This is the style that I have for the most part when I do pictures. It's very loose. And I just wanted to show you some of the things. Now, what I've been doing is kind of adjusting my style a little bit so that I'm doing pictures now that are like filling in a coloring book. You know, you do the sketch first and then just put in the trees and outline some of the detail. You want folks on skating on the ice or whatever, or in the bridge and houses in the background. That's pretty much what I've been doing. And then filling in a little bit of a wash sky and the bridge and whatnot. And that's the style that I've been working with. This is a similar idea of that. I start off with the pen and ink. I use permanent ink, and I put the colors in that I want, the type of flower you want, some leaves and so forth, and then go from there. This here is a sort of a false matte type thing by just putting the width of your masking tape on the paper first. Then when you pull the tape off, you get a sort of a instant matte around your artwork. That one's done just the same way, similar to that idea. So those are some of the things that I've been working on. And I work from pictures. You can see the Y shape in the trees. Yeah? The trunk and then the limbs coming out, sort of like a lot of Ys. Okay, so much for that. Now, let's get back to doing a picture of the lily today, the painting. Now, I try not to spend too much time with the fussy detail. So I'll start off, and maybe I should spend more time. I do at home. I'll be honest with you. At home, I do take a little bit more time, but within the time frame we have here, we have to do things a little faster. Now I can copy that picture somewhat, or I can change it. But basically, the lily has these 4 plants that come out from the top, the flower, and then so forth. And then usually the leaves are kind of opposite, you know, in growth from the stem. Okay, so let's get started. Let's put some let's put some lights. Whoa. Got sharpen the pencil here. Let's start with this light first. One here, one going that way. This is going to be just a bud over here. And then we got another one going out here. Okay. And then remember I said it's shaped like a trumpet, a music instrument. And you can do some of the, put a little bit of a oval. I usually do a sort of a crooked one. And something like that. And then you got the stem coming down in here. Now I try to offset it a little bit so that the stem is a little bit to the right or left. This one I can have it come down a little bit more towards the left side, right side, I'm sorry. Okay, and then you got your leaf coming out this way. Now you can spend more time with the drawing than what I'm doing here, obviously. Okay, but this kind of gives you an idea. Now, what I usually do, I put in the background. I put in this particular picture has a deeper colored background, like almost like the curtains in the room here. A dark background, and I usually use a big brush. Okay, start off with a big brush. All right. This happened to be probably a 1-inch flat, okay? So I wet the paper a little bit around where I want the black to go, okay, or the gray. I'm not going to probably make it as deep a color as the picture here, something like that. Okay. Now, if you have too much water, that's where your paper towel comes in. You can blot it. Kind of hit it a little bit in places. Okay, there you go. And wet it into there a little bit more. Okay, so now that's just putting the water on. So now I take a little bit of my I don't use straight black, but I use Payne's gray, and it's sort of has a little bit more color to it. Not much. I mean, it still looks quite dark, but we'll put that into this wet wash, and sliding around. I usually tape the paper down. I'm kind of being a little bit too spontaneous here today. So, anyways, you're putting that wash in there. Use a big brush. You don't have to be overly fussy about it, because you can always readjust it a little bit later on if you want. You can go right to the edge, or you can leave a little bit of a white edge around the paper, and then put it inside of a mat type of thing. Get pretty close to the edge. Just a little darker through here. Okay. Now, they call me a little bit of a fluid painter. Fluid means that you're more looser, if you will, with how you apply the paint. I kind of just put it in, looked okay, I'll leave it. You don't want to spend too much time. That's the problem I used to have with my oil paintings. I would get so bogged down with spending too much time. And by the time I got through, I was exhausted. And my labors sometimes weren't living up to my expectations. So I said, I got to find something that's a little bit more rapid to finish up. Okay, here we go. We got a little background in there. Now, okay, so For the most part, outdoor paintings, I start with the background, you know, the sky and then the foreground, stuff like that. But just the background, and then the objects themselves I save for last. So the next thing we're going to work on, let's try a different size brush. I thought I had one picked out somewhere. Oh, we'll use this one here. No, wait a minute. Maybe just a little bit larger than that, if I can find a larger one than that. Well, okay, I can get by with this one. Now, we're going to do the green. I usually, with a plant, I usually do the background, I do the leaves, and then I finish the flower itself, okay? So, let's see what we can do. I got some green over here. Now, a lot of times what I do is I dash a little bit of yellow into that at first, and then I'll go from there. Let's look at the picture here. We got some petals going off here, over here. You notice that as I go out, I sort of lift up so it goes to a point more. Okay, you've got a lot of little things happening in there. Okay. Now, on some of these plants, this one here has a couple of petals on it. It looks like this one has about, that could be part of something else, I don't know. Maybe 1, 2, 3, 4, maybe 5 petals, I don't know. We'll put a dash out there anyway. A little bit over here, and we'll make that go to a point a little bit more. Okay, something like that. 1, 2, 3. I believe in uneven numbers here. Something in there, a little bit over here, maybe. I don't know. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. Now, excuse me. So now we want to get into doing some of the contour and to bring out the shape of the flower. So what I have to do, I guess, I can't use any other color. The petals are sort of a whitish color, so what I have to do is make a little bit of a darker contour around these shapes. Let's see, let's go this way, okay. Well, yeah, we can put that one up there, bring that out. Maybe give it a little bit of a bumpy edge there. This one's going to have sort of a loose, bumpy edge in here. This one, normally, like I said, I would probably go a little slower, but I want to see if I can finish this. Something like that. And that 1, 2, 3, yeah, and these could be blossoms. Let's put a little bit of detail into it here, to kind of emphasize bring out the petals a little bit more. Something like that. You know, Oriental painters, a lot of times, they meditate and then they dash in with a brush stroke. And so my flower is going to be similar to that idea. Similar to that idea. You notice I'm just sort of just responding to different things as I look at the flower. I'm not going in depth with a lot of fussy detail today. Okay, that's about, I don't know, maybe I'll add something else, something in here. Okay, but I'm not going to spend a lot of time, working with a lot of detail. Now, also on the inside of the flower, there can be a little bit more shading, and sometimes what I do is take maybe you could use a different color. You can use the gray if you want, or you can add just a little bit of color into that, kind of perk it up a little bit. I don't know if the red is the right one to put into the gray. Probably not. I think probably I'd be safer to go more with yellow. Okay, just a little bit of yellow, and we'll mix a little bit of the black into it. Let's see what's going to happen here. So we're going to just put some inside the flower itself. We're just going to dash some color into it. A little bit more off color here. Just put some texture into that. And whatnot. See, I'm painting kind of, really out there today, huh? Very loose. Very loose. Okay. I think it's sort of like an athlete. You know how the athletes all warm up before they get going? Maybe artists have to maybe do the same similar thing. Kind of loosen their wrist or arm up a bit. Okay, what else? Just a little bit more texture in here. Linear. Okay, that's that. Now, I think in the side of the flower, there's these little, sort of like little seedy things, and sometimes you can put them in just a hint. I'm going to use a little bit of that, a little bit of red in the yellow. It's sort of a little bit of an orangey color, and you can show a little drops of those in here, something like that. It's sort of like a seed type of thing that grows out of that particular plant. And then this looks a little bit too light in here. I got to bring out a little bit more contrast, so I may have to go back and get a little bit deeper. Now, this is where it gets tricky. I can go back and I can make another deeper shade of gray, or I can just try a little bit of that warmer shade in the background. Just give it a little bit of warmth in there. Maybe it might work. I don't know. A lot of these things I experiment with, and sometimes they come out surprisingly okay, and sometimes they don't. And that's why they invented paper towels and white paint to cover up what you don't like about it, So let's do a little bit more up into here, up in this area. Now, a lot of times these things turn out better than I thought they would. Believe it or not. This might be a little bit too much pink. Let's calm it down a little bit. Put a little bit more Payne's gray into it. Like I was saying, that some of these things come out pretty good sometimes they don't. Definitely, probably it needs a little bit more work fill in some of that white. You see I'm painting very, very free today. Very free. Okay. I had a chance this morning to do a little bit of exercise, if you will. And I'm just going to kind of bring out the green a little deeper in the center stem. We just put a little darker green up and through that. Yeah, I had a chance this morning to, I had some pictures that I had been working on for a while, and I was finding out, looking at them with a fresh eye, what they needed, so they didn't need an awful lot to call them somewhat finished. Now, if you don't like that, just blot it out. Take it out of there before it dries. I think probably I'm just going to pull it out of there, wiggle it out. But if you do it in one place, you have to kind of put some of that back into something else, so it looks like you intended it to be that way, right? Yeah, something of that nature. Okay. And sometimes it's like maybe you have to use the right brush for what you're working on. I often wondered about people that have to use different instruments for different things, and I was watching the other day a fellow giving golf lessons, and what club to use, and how he stands, you know, and how you move one foot forward, the back foot forward drags. So it's a flowing motion, anyways. And I said to myself, you know, I think artists are similar to that because they have sort of a flowing motion to the way they may paint a lot of times. And I always sort of compared myself a little bit to a conductor. I mentioned that earlier about conducting, the way you hold a brush, how he holds the baton, and you get that nice movement going, you know. And I think in your artwork, if you can get that same type of a movement going, I think it makes your paintings look a little bit more interesting. But you do have to be careful, you know, how much you're gonna do, you know, a little bit here or there. And you have to be careful not to overdo. I think doing less is a lot safer than trying to overdo anything. And so that's why when I paint a lot of times, I have to be cautious and maybe blot something out before it can dry in if it doesn't look right. Now, a lot of times in the morning when you look at your artwork, it's going to look a lot different. The paint settles into the paper. The paper's going to automatically kind of absorb some of the color. So your picture that you were working on might come out a heck of a lot lighter. Now, you can take, of course, if you use a marker for the outline, you can take your paint, you can pull some of that edge away like this, wiggle some of the edge off, especially if it's paint. Now the marker is not, once it dries, it's not going to be able to you're not going to be able to get paint out of it. But you notice that once you hit a brush stroke, a watercolor, you can take some of that edge away, and make that into a shadow on the blossom itself. Where are we at? Okay, yeah, just take some of that and just pull it away, and you can put some of the softer shadow into the blossom of the plant. Now, this looks a little bit kind of distorted in here, and probably it is. Now, if it's not too troubling, what I do sometimes is I just break it up a little bit more with something, whatever. Maybe that something wasn't this, so if you want to pull that, soften that out, you can. Now, if you use that color, like I said before, probably you can find another place where you can use it. Let's see if I can, a little bit of green maybe in here. A little bit over here, there. Just distribute that color throughout your picture a little bit more. If you get sort of a blob, sometimes what I do is take my brush, and let's say that's a blob in there. Well, you just make some little thing out of it, just whatever. And another part of the leaf. Okay, you can repeat that. You can work and dabble around in this a little bit more. I myself, I hope I know when to stop. I hope I know when to stop with a lot of my artwork that I do, because sometimes what happens is that I get too carried away. And the worst thing is to try to backtrack and try to correct it. Sometimes you make a mistake that's so terrible that it's almost safer to start over. Just put that aside, give it a rest and whatnot. Now, some of these, like this one here, I think was supposed to be like a bud. So you can fill that in, a little bit more like a bud starting here. I think I had another one over here. Did I? Where's the picture again? Okay. There was something coming out of here. I think I had something going out of there. Oh, I usually put something more. This bothers me a little bit, that green. I could sort of temper that down a little bit more into here. There you go. Now, you can take a picture and set it aside and come back and look at it the next morning. And you can see possibly, after it's dried out and the colors are going to be pretty well set, you can decide what else you might want to do. Now, the beauty of watercolor is that you can put the paint on, you can let it sit there for a year, but once you hit it with water, it reactivates the paint again. A lot of paint doesn't do that. Oils and acrylic and all that doesn't work that way. But with watercolor, you can come back and touch it up. Now, as I was looking through some of my things the other day, I said, there's a lot of paintings that probably could use a little bit of finishing. You take some of this like this here. I'm going to put it down flat. You take some. You could find little things that you could do. You could make like in this one. you can make some little cast shadows, you know, the figures on the ice, or you can put some little more markings on the ice caused by the blades of the skate. There's always some little thing you can add to your picture, but you do have to know when to stop also. That looks a little bit funny up there. Take any old brush and you can erase that. Take some of it out. Use your brush like an eraser and just soften it out a bit so it's not so noticeable. Okay, so this gives you an idea how you can go about painting, and don't be afraid to you know, just kind of loosen up a little bit and do some of the exercises that I was talking about earlier. There's my bunny rabbit here. If you want a white bunny, just keep the paper white. And I got some leftover paint here. I might as well work on the bunny here. Hey, a red Easter egg. Maybe something else. Maybe put some coloring in the ground. Add some green, you know, grass. I'm using a bigger brush. You don't have to use a big brush this size. Okay. What I do a lot of times, I start off with a big brush and then I come back into it and slow down a bit. Now we don't want to get too much of the Christmas colors in there, so let's do a little bit of work here. We can make that darker around the rabbit. Background. Put some background in there. I would probably slow down. I'd take another brush to do this, but I'm just kind of filling it and show you a little bit how you can do it. Let's see, let's make this, put Easter egg there. We need 3. Okay, here you go. Put a little bit of red into that one. There you go. I would probably, if I wanted to slow down a bit, I probably would use a little bit of a smaller brush on some of that. But whatever color you want to put up in here, maybe not this particular color, but you know, something else. I had a tube of blue, but I couldn't quite get the cap off. So there goes my blue sky. I don't know if this thing's loose enough yet. It's starting. There you go. I finally got it. Oh, well, I had it in the water for a little while. If your paint gets a little bit hard around the cap, you just put the whole thing in hot water. Fill your pan or stick. Hot water, drop all your paints in. Make sure your caps are tight so that it doesn't leak out, and in the water, and go from there. But yeah, you can have some fun with this. Decorate the eggs, you know, whatever. You can make one giant egg. I think we used to do that sometimes, and then really spend a lot of time making all the design or a picture on that big egg shape. So, okay. So I'm getting almost ready to pack up here a little bit, and tomorrow I stop over to the senior center. and we'll do something, probably work on a floral or something over there. I brought a whole envelope filled with all sorts of flowers, make a big bouquet of flowers. I like flowers, but the thing is that you do have to be a little bit fussier. You know, you can't do it too fast. I did those sketches a little bit faster than I normally would at home. This type of thing here, you could do the. I did the marker first, and then it was just a matter of putting color into that, like you would almost fill in the color of a coloring book. And I just put some wet at first. You can see where I dropped some wet paint, and then just went back in. Now, in any area you wanted to bring out a little highlight, while it's wet, you just hit it and blot it and so forth. And then the finishing touches were the flowers themselves, putting a little bit of color, you know, into the flowers, and there you go, a little bit of highlight there, whatnot. But it's still, to me, it's not quite, you know. I did some dark in here, and maybe it needs a little bit more in some of these other areas, just to bring out more of a contrast between the flower and you know, the background, or whatever. So I guess I'm pretty well close to finishing up today. So I appreciate you folks for being with us, and maybe we can cook up something else next week. I got this thing, I do lighthouses and I do birch trees and outdoor pictures a lot, and flowers, florals, stuff like, things like that. I don't have too many florals to be able to show you. This one here, I never got around to putting a mat around it, signing it, and sewing it. This was one that I had in the pile. And as I sort of clean up my art area, I'm finding all these little things that I've done. I've got one pile, it's about a foot high, and it's just ones that I either didn't like or didn't finish, or they needed something else. And it's usually that something else is just to finish them off. So that's the way that goes. Whatnot. But it's a lot of fun. Painting is very relaxing. The time seems to fly right by. I know when I used to take these workshops up in Maine, you start off early in the morning and you say, oh boy, this is going to be a long day. But you get into painting, and pretty soon it's lunchtime. You go off somewhere, find a place where they had, you know, clam chowder or whatever it was, and then have your lunch, and then you finish up painting, we'll say at 4 in the afternoon, head back to the resort or wherever you were staying, and have supper. And then what we used to do is have a critique after supper, and that would run until, what, 8:30 maybe sometimes. And then the teacher would say, okay, you can have the rest of the day off now. Okay. So it made for a long day, but it was a lot of fun. And the time does fly when you're into the painting part of it. Okay? So take care. And what do I always say about finishing up here? Brushes up, and we'll see you next time.